All right, and we are live. So today, hey everyone, welcome to today's video. This is a live stream with Sellersnap, and for anyone watching this, when you're selling on Amazon, I always stress the importance of having a repricer, and I personally think repricing is one of the most important aspects to selling on Amazon, and it can either make or break your business. Now, if you guys have talked to me privately, you know that I've used repricers such as Be Cool and Go Aura, but within the last month, we've made the switch over to Sellersnap, and I personally believe that this is one of the best repricers and Amazon tools that's out there. So I'm really pumped to be talking with Ian. Ian, go ahead and introduce yourself and a little bit about Sellersnap.
Yeah, absolutely, Kris. First of all, thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here and chat with you and the people from your group who are signing on to this live stream. And a little bit about myself. I'm Ian Kaneshiro. I'm originally from Los Angeles, California. Currently in Tel Aviv, Israel. Working for Sellersnap. And as you mentioned, Sellersnap is the game theory AI repricer. And what that means, in short, is that we take a cooperative approach in order to avoid price wars and get the buy box at the highest possible price. And I'm sure we'll get a bit more into that throughout the session.
Exactly, yeah. And just so for maybe someone who has no idea about repricing on Amazon, what exactly does that mean? The game theory approach that you mentioned, and what exactly do you guys do?
Yeah, it's a really great question. So I think in order to answer that, it's important to understand, what is a repricer? Why does it exist? Why is it important to my Amazon business, right? And we know that, out of there's numbers all over the place, but it's something like 2 million different businesses around the world that are selling on Amazon. That all of these third-party sellers, these 3P sellers, are selling on a marketplace where there's competition, and so that can be split into really two main groups: the private label group, which we're not going to talk so much about because that's not. Repricing isn't as relevant for that group, but that wholesale and arbitrage group, which is where repricing is the most relevant. And when it comes down to that, when we're selling an item on Amazon, there is a possibility that because it's not my branded item, let's say it is, I'm looking at a water bottle here. And let's say I'm selling a branded water bottle by Camelback or Hydro Flask, whatever floats your boat, right? I'm not the only one that's selling that version of it. So I'm not the only person on that ASIN. And so what that means is I need to put myself in the best position to sell. And so to put myself in the best position to sell, I have to be in the buy box. And that buy box, for anyone that doesn't know, is that area on the right side of the listings page where you have the options to add to cart or click to buy. And, there's statistics out there that show that something like 80% of sales on Amazon go through the buy box. And that number goes even higher when we're talking about mobile devices. And so what happens there is sellers are competing for that space. And there's a few different metrics that go into it, including, reviews and IPI score, but most importantly, and the one that the metric that we can control the most is pricing. And so that's where we come into play. That's where Sellersnap comes into play. What we're doing is we are trying to put our sellers in the best position to, number one, sell, and number two, get the buy box at the highest possible price.
And thank you so much for that explanation for maybe anyone new here that's watching this, or if they're watching the replay. Now, what exactly, right? Because there's a bunch of different repricers out there. And before I let you answer this question, I want to say from my experience, I was going to ask the question, what makes you guys different? And one of my favorite things about you guys, not only is the repricer itself and all of the different, I feel like you guys are doing, more than a lot of these other repricers allow you to do. And we can get into those specifics. But the one thing I've been really impressed with so far is the customer experience. And I feel like you guys didn't even know I had a YouTube channel at first when I was talking with you guys, and I was still treated like top of the line, grade A, responding to my emails quickly. It was late over there for you, and you were still taking calls with me. Never once did I feel like I was rushed off a call. And I cannot speak volumes enough about that just on the customer service side of things. But speaking technically, what do you feel like you guys do that makes you stand out amongst all of these other repricers that are out there?
Yeah, just give me 1 sec. I'm having a bit of
go for it, man.
In here. I know we're live.
And if you guys have any questions too, if you guys have any questions in the comment section, post those and we will get to those later on, probably within, maybe like the last 10 minutes or something. I can touch on some questions if you guys have any, whether it's on YouTube or Facebook. And I'm pulling those up now too.
Yeah. So when it comes down to customer experience, one of the things, and we all experience it with all the different repricing, not even repricing, but softwares that we use, is that what it comes down to a lot of times that happens is that, you sign up for the software, you run through your free trial, and you're kind of left to sort everything out kind of on your own. And in the terms of Sellersnap, we do not work that way because we know that there is a lot that goes into repricing. And one thing that we talk about a lot with a lot of our customers is that when it comes down to how we interact with the different pieces of technology that we use to operate our Amazon business, that there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all solution. And so many people out there want a plug-and-play solution for their Amazon business, and because again, there's millions of businesses operating on Amazon and even more listings. We need to make sure that we are making the tools we operate work for us and not the other way around. And so when it comes down to repricing in particular, it's important that we take an approach to each one of our Amazon sellers, but more importantly, each listing, to set that listing up for success based on the KPIs or the key performance indicators that we're looking for.
Okay. And so basically you're not going to just, when someone signs up, you're not just going to leave them high and dry to kind of hope that this works out. There's going to be, there's a lot of, you're in constant contact with someone that's helping you set this up properly. Which kind of leads me into my next point is who is your guys' target audience? I know that you mentioned wholesale and arbitrage, but I know that you guys, one of the caveats, and I know people are going to tell me this is, hey, Kris, like this is a more expensive. This is not like a $10 repricer, like reprice it, right?
Sure.
So what kind of people are you seeing sign up with Sellersnap? What kind of stores? What volume are you seeing that people are doing a month before they start signing up with you? What does that look like?
It's a really great question. So when we're talking about the target sellers, we kind of spoke about it for a second. Our target audience is generally those arbitrage and wholesale sellers, number one. And then historically, and there's a bit of a caveat to that. Historically, because of our price point, we were targeting more mature sellers, I would say, and when I say more mature sellers, we're looking at sellers that are selling anywhere around that $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 a month mark and higher. And so that was, since the inception of Sellersnap, that's who we were looking at. In the past year or so, and it's actually been a bit more than a year, we started a program that's called the Sellersnap Accelerator program. And what that does is that takes our repricer, the standard package, which starts at $500 a month, and again, is aimed towards those larger, more experienced sellers who are looking for a premium product. We've taken that package and we provide a discount for a 6-month period for the Accelerator program. And that Accelerator program, and so for $250, growing sellers have the opportunity to give a repricer, the premium repricer, that similar to what a lot of their competitors are using, give that repricer a try in order to give them a stepping stone in order to grow that business, in order to grow your business. And so the idea there is that Sellersnap is taking, I guess, is investing in these businesses by way of this offering, and because we want sellers to grow. That's the bottom line. We're here to work with our sellers to provide value, and this is our way of kind of giving back to that community who needs that extra little push, and hopefully they can get that from Sellersnap.
Yeah, and the way I was looking at it too is like, it's an investment, right? Because let's say you're selling, right now we're selling between 5,000 and 10,000 units a month, right? And there's, let's say you're just moving 1,000 units a month. Well, if you're losing $1 per item, right? If your repricer is maybe not calculating when to go up in price, or maybe it's running the buy box all the way down when it shouldn't be. Saving, it could be very easily be $1 a unit that you're saving now, and that $500 that you're paying, or in the case you mentioned $250, you're making an extra $500 a month. And that's just, I think that's being conservative. That's the way we were looking at it, where, and we can get into this too. I want you to, we're going to dive into the software, but I thought it was really, really cool. The metrics you guys have where it showed, I remember there was the metrics you showed where it showed our number of units sold actually went down, and our profit margin, our entire profit, gross profit went up. And that, to me, I was like, I'm sold. Like, that to me was absolutely insane. Gross profit went up, number of units went down. So I cannot stress enough, just for when people are, maybe you're like at the cusp, like to look at it like that. And maybe it isn't the right move, but just go into it with that kind of frame of mind. Before we go ahead and jump in there, because I think it'd be really cool to kind of see some of the different data points Sellersnap has that maybe I feel like a lot of these other ones don't, other repricers don't.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be happy to jump into that. And before we do, it's funny that you bring that up, because that is something that happens, from time to time when sellers are trying us out, because a lot of time we as sellers are looking at revenue when really that's not the bottom line, right? We should be looking at profit. And I remember actually specifically our conversation together during your trial. When we were looking at the numbers, I remember in the beginning, there was a bit of panic, because we were like, what's going on? Why are orders down? Orders shouldn't be down. We're switching repricers for a reason, right? And that is something that's super common. But when your bottom line, when numbers are up on the bottom line, none of the other the other numbers don't, I don't want to say don't matter, because they do matter, but they don't matter as much. And so when we're talking about, again, we have to keep on going back to our KPIs, our key performance indicators, and our objectives, right? It's important to look at what numbers are important to us. And I think, and that boils down to how our strategy works and how we can, get the most out of each individual listing. And so before we get into the demo store and see the metrics and everything on how it's supposed to work, I think it's best to really kind of wrap our heads around how we got to that point where, we ordered items are down, but the profit is up, right? And so it goes a little something like this. When we're using a rule-based repricer, what we see a lot of time is rule-based repricers are set up to have a strategy, something along the lines of undercut my competitor by a penny, right? So Kris, if you and I are on a listing together, and we're both using that same strategy, what happens is you undercut me, I undercut you, you undercut me again, and we keep playing this back and forth until we bottom out the price, right? That I'm sure we've all seen that before in terms of the price war. And so where Sellersnap comes into play is that we see that this is happening, and we're going to capture the buy box and then raise to our max price. And that decision is being made by the AI, already knowing that that competitor is attached to my price, right? Because in that scenario, you are attached to my price minus a penny. And so that means when I bring that price up to max, you're going to come up and sit 1 penny below my max price. And that way I can re-engage with you, undercutting you, letting you undercut me, and we'll keep going back down until the repricer thinks that the price gets too low. And then it's going to reset to max or a portion of that max price. And so in both these scenarios, we're getting 50% buy box share, right? Because every time I win the buy box, I get half the buy box, and you come back and get the other half. We keep doing that. So we're both getting 50% of the buy box, but in the scenario of Sellersnap, we're getting at a higher price point, which is kind of where we came from, and really where we bring the most value to those Amazon sellers.
Yeah, and that's cool that you guys do that, because we were doing that probably for the manually ourselves, running the price down, or and then, resetting the price, getting the other people to come back up to us, whether it was other sellers, third-party sellers, or even Amazon. And we were having to do that ourselves, right? Run the price down, set it back up.
Right.
And it's just so, especially when you have, hundreds of listings, you just can't do it. And you're not going to be able to do it at the correct time either. You're on it all the time because it's a software. So
exactly.
Yeah. So I mean, it's pretty sophisticated.
I think the main point about that as well, that is a strategy of a lot of sellers, and I can tell you that it works. You wouldn't have been doing it manually if you didn't see the results. But the main difference in that particular portion of the strategy is that with Sellersnap, that we don't necessarily make that jump to max unless we know you're going to come with us, right? And so there might have been scenarios that you were operating manually where you come up to max and your competitors don't come with you. And in that scenario, you are giving up your chance at buy box share and your chance at being competitive for no real gain, right? And so with the AI repricer, of course, we have to test, and sometimes the test misses, and that competitor doesn't come back up. But at the end of the day, that's something that's a piece of data that we save, and we know that they don't come with us. So we don't have to necessarily make that decision, an hour later, 2 hours later, if we know we're not going to get anything out of it. And so that's the real difference between a person making these decisions versus, like you said, the software doing it for me.
Exactly. Couldn't have said it any better. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I mean, I know that I want to get into some of the data points you guys cover too, because guys, this software, you can even change the percentage of which you want to. I thought that was cool. You were having us toggle the buy box percentage on what we wanted to capture. I remember at one point we had it at 60% and we moved it down to 30 or 35% or something like that. And then you have all of these different options. It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Let me know when you can see it. Can you see my demo store? It says Yuval up here in the corner.
Add to stream. Here we go. Cool. Let me know if you guys can see this. I think I can see it fine. Let me know if you can see it too, Ian.
Yep, I can see it.
Cool.
Cool. So, I mean, look, we don't have a whole lot of time here, and there is a ton of different data points that we can go over. And so I'm going to kind of show some of the highlights. One of the main things that we'll see here is that, first of all this is dummy data, right? So sometimes numbers look a little bit funky. We test on this environment as well. So some things might look weird, but we'll get the general picture of how things work. So this is our demo store, and I'm on the overview page now, but I'm going to actually go to the listings page. And the listings page is where all of the magic happens, right? And so we'll see up at the top here that we have the different aggregations of data about that show me the metrics into my store. And so we can see that when I scroll down just a tad, that we're always going to be looking at what is shown here. So all of these listings. And you'll see that right now I'm looking at the view for the last 7 days. I can look at the 30-day date range and the custom date range and a custom date range. In addition, I have all of these filters, so I can look at things that are currently being repriced, or just my listings that are in stock. And then there's a ton of customizable filters here where I can look at things like where my buy box price is below my min, will show me listings where I'm not currently competitive on it. And so what it boils down to is understanding, or really asking myself the question, what is important to my store, right? What is important to me? Is total ordered items, is revenue, or is profit the important part to my Amazon business? And then from there, what we can do is we can use the filters to slice and dice that data in order to get the best picture of my store. And so some of the things that we looked at before, I'm trying to think back. It's already been probably 6 weeks since that initial call that we had. Mm-hmm. That I'm just trying to think back to some of the things that were really important to us during that time. And I know for you, we were looking at the different metrics in the listings table, such as revenue, ordered item, and ordered items. And that was and total profit. These were the things that were really important. And so when we're comparing, the time before we started repricing and the time before we started using Sellersnap and then after, what we would generally do is look at a custom date range just to the day that we started using Sellersnap and compare it. And so the way that we compare it is in these data points, you'll see that we have total revenue in one column, and we have 3 different values here. The top value is the current period that I'm looking at, so the last 7 days. And then the bottom value is the period before this, so the previous 7 days. And so then what I can do is I can compare those 2 time periods and see that, in this case, I had an 18% increase in total revenue. And then from there, we're looking at these different values. And some of the ones that you and I and Drew talked about a lot had to do with average selling price and velocity, right? And so why is average selling price important? Because average selling price is will show us where Sellersnap is actually getting me better margins, right? When we see numbers like this that are going up, we can see that, in this case, I'm making an extra 6 cents. And a lot of these scenarios, I'm not making as much. My average selling price might be going down, but then maybe my velocity is going up, which means I'm actually selling more items. And so generally, those are 2 indicators that the repricer is doing its job. Because I either want to sell more items or I want to sell at a higher price. If I can get to a scenario like this, where I'm selling more items and I'm selling at a higher price point, that means that is where I can actually maximize my potential when it comes to repricing.
And I think that's really awesome too, that you kind of touched on it. We're taking these calls and you're asking yourself, what's best for your store? And a lot of these other repricers are more cookie cutter, but with Sellersnap, I really felt it was not only were we asking ourselves these questions of maybe what's best for our store, but you were there to kind of help us narrow down on that, because sometimes you don't know the questions if you just don't even know what to ask. You know what I mean? Like you don't even know what to ask. And I think you were really there to help us figure that out. And to even prove that it's not cookie cutter even further is, and you may remember this, is we had that PlayStation item where Drew, brought it up. It's like, hey, look, like in the scenario you just gave where it made sense, like to raise the price up. But for us on this particular item, because we raised the price up, we were missing out on, we might be making a cut, like an extra $1.50 a sale, but we're missing out on maybe 20 sales a day. Right. And so
right,
it was like the Sony light, the PlayStation light.
The lamp.
Okay. And you're like, okay, not a problem. Let's just go in on that listing. And I think we toggled, it was like we toggled the buy box percentage or something. I forget. It was something along those lines. And then we started moving more of them. So yeah, that's what, like it's very customizable, guys, for your listings, because what, especially if you're doing OA or wholesale, you're going to have different strategies for some items. Some items you may be like, hey, I'm cool with holding. This is 100% ROI. I'm cool with holding this for 2 months. And then other items that may be a 15% ROI, and you don't want to hold that for a month. You're like, I want this gone in a week. And you can go in here into each of your listings and kind of customize that. And even the seller ID, that was cool. You can even like customize who you're repricing against. I thought that was pretty cool. Too, for maybe if you're seeing consistent sellers on listings, but I just wanted to touch on that. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, I think that we spoke about this a lot, kind of in length when we were talking about the repricer and how to get the most out of it. And I think what you touched on is really common with a lot of sellers, is that as sellers, we can get so caught up into our workflows, and we have so many different things to do, from sourcing to managing inventory. Often sellers are managing VAs as well, and everything else in between, bookkeeping, and then we're talking about repricing. And when we're doing a business operation, anything, we have to have an objective. And often I find that sellers have an idea of go into repricing with an idea of what they want. I want to sell more. And that's it. But then when we dive into it, goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning. Not every listing can be treated the same. So when we're talking about our Amazon store, my question is, why are we talking about it in general? Let's break it down. Let's segment those listings. And let's understand what are my objectives for this group of listings, for group A. And then let's make some adjustments. And then what's my objective for group B and group C and group D? And then when we can be a bit methodological on that, we can really set ourselves up for success by then using some of the customizable features, such as win buy box, or follow a specific competitor, and all the other customizable features within Sellersnap to put that group of listings and those in the best position to succeed.
And you bring up a good point too, in terms of, all the other things going on. And I get asked all the time, Kris, do I need a repricer? Do I need a repricer, Kris? Like, what would you recommend? And the thing is like you mentioned, there are all these other components to the business: finding VAs, hiring VAs, teaching them, supplier research, sourcing those products. And at the end of the day, if you can't execute on your profitable suppliers, this is the execution, repricing. And if you aren't keeping up on this, other competitors, other sellers will. And I personally think that you can't be left behind. Like, as an Amazon seller, things are constantly evolving, things are constantly changing. And one of the things that I feel like has helped us is we're always up to date, and we're always on our business, staying on top of things. And this software, I think, is a huge must. I think people would be doing themselves a disservice if they weren't if they didn't at least check it out, like at least check out the free trial. Which leads me to another question is, and I know what for us, how long it took, but how long would you recommend, like what kind of expectations would you give someone that's going in and you guys give a 15-day free trial? Do you think after about 15 days that you can kind of start seeing some results within your Amazon store? Do you think is that a good expectation?
That's a great question. So the answer is yes. And the reason I say that is because every single seller that is using Sellersnap has been through the same exact process as you, and they have all used the free 15-day trial to evaluate and see if Sellersnap is the repricer for them. So in terms of the expectations, I have sellers that come in and on day 14 or 15 say, oh, I'm still not sure. Like I don't know how to look at the data, which is a really common question. And that's why we're here. We have a really great team on our side who will be able to help slice and dice those data points to show you. And I'm not here to claim that Sellersnap is the right fit for every single business, right? Because it's not true, because there's so many different other factors that go into it. But we're here to show you the numbers, and then you can make that decision for yourself. Because who am I to tell you, yeah, this is going to be the be all and end all for your business? You have to come to that conclusion for yourself. But then also on the flip side, I've had sellers flip on the repricer 48 hours later, give me a call and say, hey, Ian, I'm ready to sign us up. And again, in that scenario, I love hearing that, but at the end of the day, we always suggest to finish out that free 15-day trial, make sure that it works for you kind of in the long term, because selling on Amazon, it's not a sprint, right? It's a marathon. And so we need to make sure that we're not just reacting when we see peaks, but we are making appropriate decisions based on actual trends. And we can start to see that, especially on competitive listings over that, that 2 week, that 15-day period.
Yeah, and that's such a great point too. Like, it's like if you think it's not working, reach out to you and say, hey, like here's what I'm just don't quit the free trial, right? Like ask and see, because you weren't ever like, I remember it was our first 2 days and Drew and I, we were like, oh my God, our sales are down, like, whatever, because we were in the process of switching repricers. It was kind of a mess. And you never once pushed us. You're like, hey, look, like, I think I didn't feel pushy at all. It's like, hey, like, this maybe we'll be the best fit for you. If not, I just want what's in your best interest. And I really appreciated that. So, yeah, I mean, is there anything else that you can think of that maybe I forgot to ask or I didn't ask that maybe you encounter often? And I don't see just a lot of people tuning in. I don't really see any questions, but like, are there any basic questions that you feel like get asked that maybe I missed in this live?
Yeah, I'm sure there's plenty that we didn't cover. I would say that one of the main things that I want to echo that what you said has to be about using a repricer. And we are all in business for a reason, right? And so I'm obviously going to be a bit biased towards Sellersnap and towards our product. That's fair to say. But what I can say is that there are a lot of I talk to a lot of customers who have never used a repricer in the past and are always a bit skeptical of kind of handing over the reins to an automation. And the thing that I have to say the most is that it's important to automate. It's important to hand over some of these tasks and put ourselves in a position to win and get the most out of our Amazon business. So if you're not using a repricer at the moment, you should go out and find one. And, there's plenty of solutions out there. And of course, Sellersnap is one of them. But there's a lot of really great solutions for people that are just starting out as well and may not be ready for even the Accelerator program. And so, like my message to everyone is go out, find yourself a repricer. And in order to just free up the time that you're spending on repricing to do the other things that you need to do. Because like everybody has their superpower, right? And a lot of superpowers we see out there are sourcing, whether it's the arbitrage people that know exactly what stores to hit and when and what time, to the people that are out there, shaking hands with wholesalers and distributors who are and trying to get better deals that way. And if that's your superpower, why are you spending all day, moving your repricer, moving your listing up and down a penny here and there? Leave that to an automation, automate your life, and you'll find that you're having a much easier time at it.
Such great advice. And I got, it was last week, someone asked me, they're like, what's your overall sentiment of being an Amazon seller? Like, do you like it? Do you enjoy it? And I said, I enjoy it. It gives me freedom. And it's, and I've been able to automate quite a bit of things, repricing being one of them. And I don't care what it is. It could be anything. If you're having to do every little tedious task, it's not going to be as fulfilling. So I love that advice. Scale, automate, and focus on the things that you are really good at and, maybe really love. Ian, I really appreciate your time today. I appreciate you coming on. For anyone watching this, in the link below, whether you're in Facebook or whatever, you can see the link to Sellersnap in the description below for you guys to check out and sign up for that 15-day free trial.
Yeah, and if you even have a few questions and you don't know where to start, or you're in the middle of a contract or anything like that, reach out to us anyways. We have ways of, working with our customers to really, try to get put you in the best position to succeed. Because, when it comes down to the business like this in the Amazon ecosystem, we kind of all win when we're setting ourselves up and kind of putting those right partnerships in place, which goes along with like that same vein of, automation, and use those automations and partnerships to scale your business and push your business to places that, you wouldn't even expect it.
Man, I love it, dude. Yeah, seriously. Thanks a lot for coming on. I will put, guys, contact Sellersnap. Maybe see if they're the right fit for you. If you have any questions, you can hit me up about my experience. Reach out to customer service at Sellersnap. Maybe talk to Ian. But I appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot for coming on.
Thank you for having me, Kris. It was a blast, and we'll do this again sometime. All right.
Definitely. All right. Talk soon. Bye.
All right. Thanks.